claims. We'll get you reorganized.
Hey everybody, let's see if we can hear me tonight. Thank you people for jumping in there early. It's neat to see that. Jay went in through the link tree up. So everybody, if y'all want to go to the link tree, you got your Discord links, the Buy Me a Coffee link, and I'm trying to get Jay to fix it up with a few other links in there if she wants to. The goal of my channel is to entertain and educate people, not to make money. Folks have been really cool and really nice, offering to help support the channel. The mods need the thanking. The mods need that. They really put in some work for it. Everybody seems to be great. All right, we got Nan. That means we can start because we're always going to wait for Nan. Nan and Julie, and we got Courtroom Cat. Someone named Jay. I'm not sure who she is. Jay, I don't know. Roll on Green. Hey, how are you? Glad to see you here. And Sivo Girl, of course, she was actually number 3 or number 4 on the likes. So make sure to hit that like button. They say that's important. I'm not sure what it's important for. And Sally Port, we will be quick tonight, but we got a long one tonight. It's going to be about 2 hours. It's a court case in Judge Middleton's court that I really like. I like the long process ones. I'm more entertained by that. All right. I get distracted reading the comments, so let me go ahead and jump into that. But if y'all have anything, just put it in the comments and we'll go from there. It's Friday night. Now, I normally don't do it on Friday nights, but I was home, and I missed last night. My internet's acting weird, so I didn't know what was going on with that. So we're going to get started.
Good morning, sir. Are you Brandon Bartell, Schoolcraft?
Yes.
We met before. This is the time and date set for trial in this matter on a charge of aggravated domestic assault. Mr. James Mequio, new prosecuting attorney assistant in the prosecuting attorney's office, is here on behalf of the people. Mr. John Bush is here with you. We had, I think, 2 pre-trials in this matter, at least one, and you agreed to have this matter set for a bench trial in front of the court only. This is the first domestic violence trial I've had in 4 years. So that's something. We'll see if we remember how to do this. Anyway, Mr. Schoolcraft, the allegation is that on or about March 26, 2024, in the city of Three Rivers, that you did assault Leslie Schoolcraft, your spouse, someone you had a child in common with, and did inflict a serious or aggravated injury, but without intending to commit murder or great bodily harm less than murder. It's commonly known as aggravated assault. It's a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to a year in jail and a fine of up to $1,000. Mr. Schoolcraft, are you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Defense counsel's ready, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. McWill, you're ready?
We are ready, Your Honor.
All right. No Officer Piper yet?
He's here, and we may be able to accomplish our proofs through the complaining witness, so I have him on standby if we need him.
All right. All right, Mr. McWill, do you wish to make any opening statement?
Your Honor, given the nature of the bench trial, we would waive opening statement at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Bush, you wish to make one?
Defense counsel waives opening statement.
All right, Mr. McWill, you may proceed with your proofs.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our first witness would be Leslie Schoolcraft. Judge there.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm any testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief.
Yes.
And would you state your name, please?
Leslie Ann. Probably changed my name.
ANN. All right, thank you. Have a seat. You were previously Leslie Schoolcraft.
Yes.
Please Mr. Macrio.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have any objection if I refer to you as Leslie in this hearing?
No,
right.
that's fine.
Leslie, as the judge already indicated, back in March of 2024, you were known by a different name, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what was that name?
Leslie and Schoolcraft.
And in March of 2024, were you married to an individual?
Yes, I was.
And who were you married to?
Brandon Bartel, Schoolcraft.
All right. And is he present here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir, right there.
Can you indicate what he's wearing?
He's wearing a black shirt and black jeans.
All right. May the record reflect the identification, Your Honor.
It may.
All right. And in March 26th of 2024 specifically, you were still married to him, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What was your living arrangement with him at that time?
He lived with me. He would sleep in our kids' room while I was at work. And then he had his own room upstairs.
All right. And you both were employed at the time?
Yes, sir.
Where were you working?
American Axle,
And what shift were you working at the time?
first shift.
And you still working there today?
Yes, sir.
And your husband was also working at the same place?
Yes, sir.
And what shift was he working?
Third shift.
And first shift would mean, what were your hours of work?
6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And what would be his hours of work as a third shift person?
10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Now, on March 26, 2024, you were still living together, but had something happened with your relationship? In other words, was it coming to an end for some reason?
Yes, I had filed for divorce.
And when did you file for divorce?
March 1st of 2024.
All right. So roughly 25 days before March.
I love how Judge Middleton looks like he's sleeping half the time. He's reading or he's just listening to it, but he does good with it. It's good to see. It's good to see him running the show. This attorney that's talking, he's a new prosecutor for St. Joseph County. So this guy here will be working for Debbie Davis when the time comes. And so it'll be neat to see how many of them she keeps on and how things work out there. She's got a good idea. I looked at her campaign stuff. She's got good ideas for how to keep prosecutors. Right now they only have 2, and there's 5 positions available. So let's see how she turns it around. We can all keep track of it.
26, 2024, correct?
Yes, sir.
And had you, was your husband at the time aware you filed for divorce?
Yes, sir.
So there were no issues with you two living together between March 1st and March 26th?
No.
Had you been to any time recently prior to March 26th?
Yes, the day prior on 3/25/24.
Okay. And did something happen at that court hearing regarding the divorce and custody of children?
Yes, me and Brandon agreed that I would walk away with full physical, full legal custody of our 3 minor children.
Now, tell me a little bit about your children. How old are they?
I have a 1-year-old boy, I have a 3-year-old girl, and I have a 7-year-old boy with Brandon.
All right. And the other 2 children are with other fathers?
Yes.
All right. Now, the child that you have with Brandon, does he require any special attention?
The 3 kids that I have with Brandon, yes, they all 3 are autistic.
All right, maybe I misunderstood. The 3 kids that you just mentioned were all Brandon's children?
Yes, sir.
All right. And all 3 are autistic?
Yes.
How did you feel about getting custody, physical custody of the children?
I knew that it needed to happen, but it did bother me that I had more say so over him when it came to the kids, because I do believe in father's rights.
So you were basically,
Schoolcraft.
no. So really, even though you were granted full physical custody of the minor children, you were a little bit sad about that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, we're alleging that an event occurred on March 26, 2024 at about 2:30 in the afternoon in your house. Where were you living at that time?
248 South Main Street in the city of Three Rivers,
And that's in St. Joseph County
St.
also?
Joseph County, Michigan.
All right. You're still living there today?
Yes, me and the kids are.
And on March 26th, that's where you were living, and that's where an incident occurred between you and your husband.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you go to work that day?
Yes, I did.
All right. Was there any issues the night before you went to work on March 26, 2024, between you and Brandon?
No, he actually stayed home with me because I was so upset over the custody hearing that he stayed home with me that night.
All right. Now, you went to work at, what time did you leave for work on March 26th?
Usually I left for work between 5:30 and 5:45.
All right. And did he drive you to work or did you go yourself?
I drove myself.
And he stayed home?
Yeah, he used to come with the kids.
What time did you get home that day?
Roughly about 2:25, 2:30.
And what happened when you got home?
I went in to grab some paperwork I needed, and then I went to tell him that I was leaving.
Leaving for the day or
I was
leaving the
leaving for a
marriage?
couple of hours to go handle some stuff that we had to have done.
And what were the things?
I was
you-
coming to the courthouse so that I could file the next stage of the paperwork of the divorce. And then I had to go meet a friend at my dad's house so that we could get a car fixed because we had a third vehicle.
Now, on March 26th, while your divorce was pending, were you handling the divorce yourself? Did you have a lawyer?
No, neither of us had attorneys at that time,
All right.
and we were doing it on our own.
And tell the court what happened when you went in to tell Brandon you were leaving.
I walked in the bedroom to tell him that I was gonna go to the courthouse and to my parents, and that he was gonna have the kids. And that's when he had earlier in the day had been asking me, the girl that he was talking to was really upset and wanted me to meet her. And so I told him, like, that's fine, I'll meet her so that she's more comfortable. Just tell her to come over at 9 p.m. And that's when he told me that they had been locking our kids in the car at our job and leaving them there. And I was like hurt by it. And I said, what? You left my kids locked in the car at my job? That's when he swung and hit me.
Did you have any physical contact with him before you were struck? Is that a no? We're making a
No.
record here, so you have to
No.
answer out loud. Now, this is somewhat confusing, so maybe we can clarify for the judge. You were married to Mr. Schoolcraft on the 26th, correct?
Yes,
But apparently you had a relationship with someone else?
yes, he had met her about a year prior when he switched departments at work. And he had been talking to me about her for a year.
So you knew about her for quite a while?
Yes,
Did it bother you?
no,
And so at that time, you didn't care if he was seeing anybody or not?
no.
And he wanted you to meet this woman?
She wanted to meet me.
And ultimately you agreed to do it that night?
Yes, because I wanted him to, and her to know that I was okay with it so that they would stop pressing me on it, because they kept asking me and I didn't want, like, it caused problems. So I was like, fine.
All right. Now, describe the room where this all happened.
It was a single bedroom. If like this is the room, then this would be the wall. There would be a bunk bed right here. There would be a space this big, and there would be a tent bed. Both of the twin bunk beds, and then this other bed are twins. The door would be right over here, and there would be a crib right there, and then a TV over here.
Okay, now we all see what you were doing, but obviously for a record, we'll have to describe it a little bit better. So this is a bedroom, correct?
Yes,
Do you know roughly the dimensions of the bedroom?
I don't. We only have an 1,800 square foot house.
All right, so it's a small house with a small room.
Yeah.
In the room are bunk beds, you indicated?
Yes, a bunk bed set.
All right, and that means a bed on the bottom and a bed on the top,
Yep, two twin beds.
and they're bunked.
Yep, two twin bunk
All right.
beds.
And that's the bed he was sleeping in at the time?
Yes, he was on the bottom of the bunk.
And when you went in to tell him you were leaving, was he asleep?
Yes,
Now, given the shifts that you work, obviously sometimes day sleeping is difficult. Is there mechanisms in your room to help sleep when it's light outside?
Yes, we had blacked out curtains in our whole house.
Okay. And which bunk bed was he in? The top bunk or the bottom bunk?
He was in the bottom bunk.
And the bunk beds, are those normally children beds?
Yes, it's a kid's bunk bed set.
And you went to up to the side of the bed where he was sleeping to let him know you were leaving, correct?
Yes, I was between the two beds, bent down with my hands on my knees so that I could whisper to him and not wake any of the kids.
Were other kids in the room at the time?
Yes, sir.
What kids were in his room at the time?
I had my 3-year-old daughter was in the bed right next to him. My 1-year-old son was in the crib on the other side, and then my 7-year-old son was standing in the doorway.
All right. Now, when you mentioned the bed next to him, this daughter was not in the same bed with him at the time.
Not in the same bed with him, in the bed next to him.
All right. So there was another bed in the bedroom other than the 2 bunk beds.
Yes,
And where you would be talking to him would be in between the bunk beds and this other bed where your other daughter was sleeping?
yes, sir.
And prior to your telling him you were leaving, there was no discussions that morning?
None at all.
No arguments of any type?
No, sir. He woke up with me and talked to me that morning, everything.
Now, that room you described, is that where he normally slept while you guys were still living together and going through a divorce?
When I was gone and he had the kids, yes, or he would be upstairs if I was there.
All right. And tell me what you remember about the strike or the hit.
I don't remember much. I just remember asking him, like, wait a second, you left the kids locked in the car. And then, like, I just remember my face hurting really bad and me like coming to, and I was facing the opposite direction on the floor.
Okay. Now describe your posture or your physical position you were in when you were talking to him while he was laying down.
I was bent down with both of my hands on each of my legs so that I could whisper to him, so that I didn't wake my daughter that was right next to him.
So you were not in the bed with him.
I was not in the bed with him.
You never climbed in the bed with him or on the bed with him?
Absolutely not.
All right. So you were leaning over next to him with your hands on your knees, talking to him, and then next thing you remember, you were facing 180 degrees the opposite direction.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you feel something strike you?
I can't remember if
Okay.
I felt something.
All right. When you woke up or strike that, how long do you think you were unconscious?
Maybe 3-4 seconds.
Okay. And when you came to, what do you remember?
My face was in extreme pain. I could tell I got hit by a blunt force object. And I screamed, get me a towel. And then that's when he ran out of the room to get me a towel.
Were you bleeding at the time?
Yeah,
And where was the blood coming from?
it was coming from my mouth and my nose.
All right. And what type of pain were you feeling in your face?
I had extreme pain in my face. I could tell that my tooth was hurting. And then I had a headache from like the middle of my eyes.
How about that pain? Is it resolved since March of this year?
I still have extreme pain between my 2 eyes that results in headaches.
Have you been treated for those yet?
No,
In addition to the pain and the blood, did you notice any other physical damage to yourself after the incident?
yeah, I had the broken tooth. I had a cut in my upper lip. It was all bruised. I had bruising on my face right here. And I had a little bit of bruising on my eyes right here.
Okay, so a little bit of bruising under your eyes, above, between your nose and your lip on the exterior and inside your lip. In
Yes, sir.
addition, a chipped or broken tooth.
Yes, sir.
Was did you have that condition or any of those conditions before you went into the bedroom that morning?
Absolutely not.
How about the chipped tooth? Did you have a chipped tooth that morning or any time before that time?
Absolutely not.
All right. I'm going to show you what is marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 1, which is a photograph. It looks like a carpeted floor with some red stains on it. Can you identify what that shows, that the picture shows?
That shows where my face was laying when I stood up and all the blood on the floor from it.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the way it looked that morning or that afternoon?
After I fell on the floor, yes.
All right. Your Honor, we move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1. Defense counsel has been provided. a copy.
Excuse me, which one is?
Oh, I'm sorry. One is this one.
Any objection, Mr. Bush?
No, no objection.
All right, I'm gonna.
All right, just a sec.
All right, thank you.
This appears to be some blood spatterings on the carpeting. And People's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted.
All right, let's look at People's Exhibit number 1. This doesn't really show your bedroom very well, or the bedroom very well, but can you explain for the judge kind of on this photograph as to where the bunk bed is that your husband was sleeping in?
Yes, it's this black metal frame is the bed that he was in.
All right, so in the lower left-hand corner of the picture, there's a black frame with some Legos, it looks like. That's where the bunk bed was?
Yes, sir.
All right. And where would be the other bed that your daughter was sleeping in?
About 2 foot off to the side on that pink enclosed bed.
All right. So in the top left-hand corner of People's Exhibit 1, there's a pink, looks like a tent type thing. Is that where the bed is that your daughter was sleeping in?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you were speaking to your husband to tell him you were leaving, were you standing then between the pink bed and the black frame, more or less?
Yes, in that little space right there.
Okay. And the frame that is shown, the black frame, is that kind of the foot of the bed area, or is that?
Yes, that's the foot of the bed.
All right. And his head, I assume, was somewhere near the top of the bed?
Yes.
So you were standing closer to the top of the bed between the two beds?
Yes, I was standing clear up here.
All right. And then when you woke up, you were down where the blood stain is that correct?
Yes, I was facing 180 degrees, the opposite direction. About 5 foot I had moved in distance.
All right. What is this at the top of the picture? It looks like a
It's a-
colorful thing of some sort.
It's a rug.
All right. And the doorway into the bedroom would be where?
It would be right here on the opposite side of the bed. So
So kind of like in the lower right-hand corner of the picture, more or less out of frame there.
yes, sir.
All right. Now, you indicate that when you came to, you told your husband to get a towel, is that correct?
Yes.
Did he say anything to you at that time?
No, he just went running out of the bedroom to grab me a towel.
All right. And did he grab you a towel?
Yes, he came back in with a towel and then said, "I'm sorry."
Okay. And did you use the towel in some manner to help wipe up the blood on your face?
Yes, I held it to my face and he ran to grab more towels for the floor.
Okay. And I'm going to show you now what is marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 2. And ask you if you can identify what's in this photograph.
That's the towel that Brandon gave me to put on my face.
Okay. And it looks like it's in the sink area at that time.
Yeah, it's sitting in our kitchen sink.
Does that picture fairly depict what the scene looked like at the time of the incident?
Yes, sir.
Has it been altered in any way that you can tell?
No, sir.
All right. Your Honor, I move for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 2 and indicate the defense counsel also has a copy.
Mr. Bush, any objection to that?
Objection.
Exhibit number 2, I'm not sure which way is up. I think this is a picture of a bloody towel and a stainless steel sink. Exhibit number 2 is admitted.
Now, in addition to the towel in Exhibit 2, there is something in the sink called, looks like a can of Mike's Harder lemonade. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's, I guess, go back a little bit. You came home from work at approximately 2:30-ish or so?
About 2:25.
2:25,
2:30.
all right. And you left for work at about 5:45 that morning?
Yes, sir.
When you left for work, did you look at your kitchen?
Yes, sir.
Was there any cans of Mike's Harder Lemonade in the sink when you left for work?
No, sir.
Were there any other types of cans or bottles in the sink area when you left for work?
No, sir.
All right. And when you got home from work, what did the kitchen look like? How was it different?
There was a Mike's Hard Lemonade can in the sink that was tipped over upside down, draining. And there was one on the counter, and then there was two like truly White Claws on the counter,
Were those full or empty?
empty.
Did you drink those before you went to work?
No,
All
sir.
right. And they weren't on the counter before you left for work?
No, sir.
And when you got home from work, all those things were on the counter and in the sink and on the sink?
Yes, sir.
Did your husband drink alcohol?
Yes, sir.
The alcoholic beverages that you found in the sink, are those consistent with the alcohol he normally drank?
Yes, sir. He drank every day.
Hey everybody, I figured I'd stop and just jump in here with Julie. So Sarah Boone, if anybody's familiar with Sarah Boone, a year or two ago, her and her boyfriend were having a night of drinking and fun, and she put them in a suitcase and happened to, I'm trying to think what's the word I'm supposed to say, unalive, not alive, got rid of them type of thing. So anyways, he didn't make it the next day. And it's crazy the way it's going. She's went through, I think, 8 lawyers, and so now she's doing it on her own. Well, with Sarah Boone, she's having to be her own lawyer because she's run off the 8 lawyers the state's appointed to her, and a YouTube creator that I'm friendly with down in Florida. Me and her got to talking one day, and she sent her a letter and got a response back from Sarah Boone. So we're doing everything we can to try to facilitate some sort of interview or something. Since Sarah Boone is acting as her own lawyer, she has a little more access than a normal inmate. And so if that ever shows up, we're gonna have fun seeing how that works out. But Sarah Boone is definitely a Florida story. You can hear that story without the state, and you'll know exactly where in the world that happened. There's no chance in the world it wasn't Florida. And so, but it's going to be an interesting one. She started a few little trials, and she's actually won some of the motions. And so she's not as much of a dummy as people make her out to be. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Yep, absolutely, Julie. The judge finally said you're on your own, and it's certainly a Florida case. All right, we're going to jump back into this one. It's neat that y'all are feeling that she's a little suspect. I started getting that impression too around the same time, so it's kind of neat how the story works out. Luckily enough, Judge Middleton can see through this stuff, and it'll have the resolution you're hoping for.
Now, how old were your kids at the time?
We had a 1-year-old son, a 3-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son.
No indication that they were drinking any of the Mike's Hard Lemonade or the White Claws that day?
They're unable to open a can.
Okay, all right. Did you sense any type of alcohol on his breath, or did you get close enough to him that afternoon?
I wasn't that close to him.
So he got you the towel, you started to wipe your face, then what happened?
He had ran out to grab another towel and threw it on the floor. He then went and got into our cabinet and was on the shelf where we have a can that we keep extra cash in. And then he ran out the front door.
What did he take with him?
He took the money that was in the can,
How much money was in a can?
about $700.
Did you take anything else with him?
No, sir.
And when's the next time you saw him?
The very next day, about 2:30 in the afternoon.
All right, where did you see him then?
He showed up with the police to get his belongings in his truck.
All right, and I take it you would call the police sometime after this incident?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when the police came, was he at the house?
No, he ran away.
All right. And do you know, or strike that, did you see where he went personally? Do you know where he went from a personal observation?
No, sir.
Did he move out of the house then that day?
I didn't allow him to come back after that.
All right. Did you have to have any medical attention to any of the injuries that you received?
I did not go to the doctor, but I did call the dentist the next day, and the earliest appointment they could get me was the following Monday.
Okay. Did you go to the dentist that day?
That following Monday, yes, I
Yeah.
did.
What did they have to do?
They had to grind my tooth down to, there was a little crack, and then they had a chip and they had to grind it down so that it didn't cause more damage.
Okay. I'm going to show you what is marked equals proposed exhibit number 3. And can you tell me what that photograph depicts?
That depicts the cut in my lip and the bruising on my lip.
So you were in the picture, you were showing the upper inside of your lip, is that correct?
Yes, I was holding the upper inside of my lip open.
All right. Does it show the chip also? That's right.
I can't see it on that one.
Does this picture showing the bruising in the bottom of your lip and upper lip fairly depict what it looked like that day?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't physically take this picture, is that correct?
No, sir. Officer Piper did.
All right, but this is a fair and accurate depiction of the way it looked that day?
Yes, sir.
All right, Your Honor, I'm going to offer proposed exhibit 3 to the court. The copy's been published to defense counsel.
No objection.
Exhibit 3 will be admitted. I'm not gonna show it. It shows some bruising on the inside of her lip. It'd be hard to see it on it's taken at a strange angle. This is taken outside your house?
Yes, sir.
Is this house right on the corner of Broadway and South Main?
No, sir.
What's the address there?
It's 248 South Main Street. It's directly across from Huddleston Lumber.
Okay, I got my bearings now.
Let me show you people's proposed exhibit number 4, which is also a picture which looks like it depicts at least the inside of your mouth and maybe the outside of your upper lip. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that a picture which tries to demonstrate the chipped tooth you had?
Yes, it shows the chipped tooth and then it shows the bruising on my upper lip.
Okay. And that's the tooth that the dentist had to pay attention to grind it down and correct the chip and the crack.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's a fair and accurate way the tooth looked that day and your face looked that day?
After 2:30 p.m. when he hit me, yes.
Okay, yes. Your Honor, I move for the admission of people proposed exhibit number 4. Oops, sorry, Judge.
No objection.
Number 4 is admitted. Again, I'm not sure how well this will be seen. You can see a chip out of her right or right of her front tooth.
When you woke up on the floor, was Brandon still in bed or had he gotten out of bed at that time?
I'm not sure because the room was pitch black.
Okay. Were you the only 2 adults in the room at that time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you know, other than your 7-year-old being in the door after the incident, do you know if the other 2 children in that room were up and about at all at 2:30?
No, they were sleeping.
So the only adult in the room and the only one that could have applied any force to you that afternoon was your husband?
Yes, sir.
I think that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Schoolcraft, this is Mr. John Bush. He's the attorney for Brandon, and he has some questions for you. You're still under oath.
Can I call you Leslie?
Yes, and I just want to point out, my name is Leslie Ann. It's not legally Leslie Schoolcraft
Yes.
anymore.
Can you spell your last name?
ANN.
She did.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I guess, but are you actually divorced at this point, or is it still pending?
It's pending, waiting on Brandon.
And what do you mean by waiting on Brandon?
He can have anything he wants. I just want out.
You have court dates scheduled?
Yes.
And when is that?
The divorce was supposed to be final on September 9th, but it's now pushed back.
So there is no actual court date at this point then?
Our next court date will be September 9th, but it's not for the finalization of the divorce.
Understood. Is that a trial that day?
I have no clue what it is.
Trying to get a picture of the room. It's not very big. You described that. And you used the term blackout curtains.
Yes, sir.
How many windows are blacked out?
Three windows in that room.
And do those do a good job?
Yes, sir.
And you say it was a little hard to see because it was dark.
It was pitch black in there, so you couldn't see at all.
So if I had a newspaper in front of me, you couldn't have read it then? And
Now,
did you have flashlight or light on your cell phone or anything that helped you navigate around that room?
no, sir.
After you were bleeding, did the blackout curtains get opened up so you could see what was going on in there?
No, sir. He turned the light on when he came back in with the first towel.
Were you able to see how your husband was postured when you came into the room?
He was laying in the bed.
On his back, on his stomach, on his side? Were you able to see well enough to have an opinion on that?
No, sir.
Did you, at a later time after the lights were turned on, did you locate blankets that were loose on top of the bed he was on top of?
He had a throw blanket on the bed after he left.
Do you know historically, does he sleep with a blanket over his head?
Sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't.
Did you ever remember your husband saying, "Leave me alone"?
No, sir.
Was there any conversation that took place between the two of you?
Me telling him I was leaving and then me telling him that if he wanted to have her come over to meet me at 9 p.m., that would be fine.
Was there any confrontation about the children being in the parking lot in the vehicle? Was that ever discussed?
He told me that he left the kids in the parking lot while him and her left. Yes.
So did you know that before you came into the bedroom?
No, he told me that while he was in the bed.
So all this happened right after you were bleeding then, and this,
No, that all happened prior to him hitting me in my face.
at some point you saw the lights came on. Was he dressed?
I don't remember. I don't recall what he was wearing.
You don't remember if he had shoes on or?
I don't recall. I did not check him out. We were getting divorced, sir.
You shared with Attorney Meckler, you've never had any chips or injuries to your teeth. in reflection, is that accurate?
That's 100% accurate. I had actually been to the dentist the week prior.
So if your husband said that you prior tooth injury, he would be lying then?
He would absolutely be lying.
Have a moment to speak with my client.
Certainly.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
No other questions at this time.
I have a couple, Miss Ann. You can just, I guess, we'll go this way. If this was a jury trial, I just leave it for them, but it's a bench trial and I have to make the decision, so I have some questions. All right, you work 6 AM to 2 PM and he worked 10 PM to 6 A. So there would be a period of time during the day theoretically from 2 to 10 when you would both be in the house. Were you together during that time?
Yes, sir.
All right, now this is an odd time for everybody to be asleep, but if you're a third shift worker, you sleep different hours. So was it normal for the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old to be asleep at 2:30 in the afternoon?
Yes, they got up when I got up and then they went back to bed around 1 PM and they were taking a nap.
Okay. And your 7-year-old, what was he doing?
When I walked in the house, he was playing on the couch. And then when everything happened, he was standing in front of the door.
Now, you said, I'm leaving. I've got some things to do. You're gonna be here with the kids. Did that upset him?
No, not at all.
And then he somehow casually tells you that he left the kids in the car
Yes, sir.
in the parking lot at American Axle
Yes, sir.
during his whole shift?
No, so I brought the kids to work with me and then he left. So we come and go. So then, when I
Right,
went,
so you go to work at 6 AM, he leaves at 6 AM, so you would meet up in the parking lot?
yes, sir. And
Okay.
so then that's when he left the kids in the car and him and her left to hang out. And then that's when, it happened, was at 6 in the morning. While I was inside working.
All right, so at 6 AM in March, the 3 kids are left in what kind of car?
I don't remember if it was his Cadillac Escalade or if it was my Yukon Denali that day.
And how long were the kids in the parking lot?
I have no clue how long he left them there.
All right, why do you think he told you that?
Because when he had been pressing me for a few days that this girl wanted to meet me and that she had an issue with me not meeting her. So that's why I told him that day that I would meet her so that she would stop asking and it would they were like, if you want me to be happy and you want to see me move on, you'll just meet her. So I said, okay, fine, I'll meet her. So that's when I told him that she could come over and I would meet her so that it would be okay. So I said, is there anything that she's going to say to me that I don't know? And he said, no, because I haven't had her come to the house anymore because I've just been leaving the kids in the parking lot at work.
And did that upset you?
I was hurt that he would leave my kids in the car by themselves.
So did you say something?
I said, you guys have been leaving the kids locked in the car at work while you guys go hang out. And that's just when he hit me just out of nowhere.
All right, so she had been coming to your house?
She had been coming to our house prior to that. And then he had told me about that a couple days prior to the divorce hearing. And he had told me that he had been shutting our cameras off. And I said, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, why would you shut the cameras off? Your area of the house is not on camera. So there's no reason, except for if you guys are going in my bedroom, for you guys to need the cameras off. And he said that he didn't want me to know what they were doing at the house, but his whole area of the house wasn't on camera, just mine.
Was this incident captured on camera?
Every room on my lower level is on camera except for my bathroom. And this room wasn't on a 24-hour recording like the rest of the house, but this room was on a indoor camera that only activated if you have motion and it's set an alarm for away. My other cameras in my house, I have outdoor cameras that record 24/7 with any type of movement.
But there's no video of this incident taking place?
Not the physical impact of him hitting me in the bedroom, but him getting me the towels to clean it up and him helping me and then him running out of the house, yes.
And when he said, I'm sorry, did he say any more about that?
He just said, I'm sorry.
Took the money and left.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember which car he took?
He didn't take any car. Whenever he runs away like this, he leaves the car and he leaves his phone so that I'm unable to contact him.
Tell me also about the headaches you've been having since you were struck. That was in March. It's now August. Tell me about that.
I still get extreme pain right here between my forehead, between my two eyes, and I get headaches frequently from them.
But you have not been to the doctor?
No, I haven't. I'm a sole provider for our 3 kids, so it's hard for me to go to the doctor.
Well, all right, I guess I won't get into that. There's a divorce pending, which will, I think, take care of it. Does he have any visitation with the kids?
Supervised visitation only.
So you've got them all the time.
Yes, sir.
All right, does any of that raise questions for anyone else?
Just one, Your Honor. Before the incident in March, did you have these headaches at all?
No, sir.
They only started after the incident?
They started about 30 seconds after I got up off the floor.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Bush?
Yes,
Yes.
has there ever been a time prior to that when you've had to get IV treatments for headaches or pain?
I have migraine headaches, but it's completely different. It's right here.
And those sometimes require an IV to handle the pain?
About 5 years prior was the last one I had.
And do you take any medication for that now?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. No further questions.
I like this when you get a husband and wife who decide they don't want to be husband and wife anymore, and then something like this pops up. You know, her mentioning she's never had a chipped tooth. Well, he's been her husband for a while, so he knows all the time she's had chipped tooths. She's saying she's got headaches and pains now that she's never had before, and he just happens to remember the doctor's visits where she had all the pains before. I'm not saying he didn't hit her. I'm not saying that, you know, they're a perfect marriage, but I know me and my wife have been married 26 years, and if we were to go through that, we'd have pages and pages and pages of, you know, information on each other. So hopefully my wife puts up with me and don't run me off. And so we'll jump back in on it. But good to see you, Bodie. Good to see you, Bodie, in Legal Fiction, Lethal Friction. I can't wait till you can change that name back. And Linus and everyone else, thank you so much. Santi91, thank you for coming in. KK, just going through the list. A lot of fun names, a lot of new names, a lot of old friends. So absolutely, your ex-spouse knows way too much about you. Yeah, I'm fortunate. Yeah, I'm fortunate. We've been married 26 years, and I don't. In the end, you can't predict tomorrow, but I can sure tell you that it'd be quite expensive. So I'm not going to give her any ideas. So I'll jump back in on the video.
Ms. Ann, you may step down. Thank you.
Honor, we have no further proofs to defend or the prosecution rests.
Mr. Bush, do you need a recess to talk for a moment?
We're ready to, I would call it a finish.
All right, thank you. Don't let her leave yet.
No, she's just going up.
All right, Mr. Schoolcraft. Good morning, sir. Good morning. You swear or affirm any testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Thank you. And would you state your name, please?
Brandon Bartel, Schoolcraft.
Brandon, where did you live on March 26th of 2024?
248 South Main Street,
And what city was that?
Three Rivers, Michigan.
And who owned that property?
We did as our the house is in my name, but I mean we're married, so
And who lived at 245 South Main Street with you?
248.
Yes, excuse me.
Me and Leslie and our three kids.
And their names and ages?
It's Bentley Schoolcraft 7, Brooklyn Schoolcraft 3, and Blaze Schoolcraft 1.
And back on March 26th, can you describe the employment of you and your wife and the shifts that you were working?
She was working on first 6 to 2, and I was working third 10 to 6.
And where was that at?
American accent.
And as a result of that schedule, did you have to have childcare?
No.
You were able to share your hours then?
Yeah, I would usually stay up in the mornings when I got out. That way the kids didn't have to be in bed all day.
We've heard of a little bit about the history. What was the relationship you had with your wife on March 26th?
Prior to that, we were, I wouldn't say obviously good because we're getting a divorce, but we were cordial with each other.
But had the marriage essentially broken down at that time?
Yes.
And had you been served divorce paper?
I never officially got served divorce papers.
Had you been to court with your wife sometime immediately before March 26th?
On the 25th.
And what was the nature of that hearing?
It was just for, I believe it was just for like custody thing, stuff like that.
And when you left court on March 25th, what did you think the custody arrangement was?
At the time, we had discussed her having full physical, full medical.
But after the court on March 25th, you continued to live in the same home then?
Yes.
What did you do midday on March 26th?
I do like I normally do. I stayed up with the kids. I usually play a little bit of video games, and then I did have that Mike's Hard Lemonade.
What time of day did you consume those?
Between 9 and 1, because I didn't go to bed till 1.
And share with the court when you said go to bed, what procedure, what did you do?
Right before I laid down, I made myself something to eat, and and went and lay down,
Okay. Well, where did you lay down?
in the kids' bedroom.
And what section of the house is that?
The lower floor or the lower section of the house.
And where were the children?
They're all, well, the two younger ones were in their cribs.
So did they lay down the same time you did, or were they already there?
I laid them down just before I ate. That way when I went to go lay down, they'd already be asleep.
And where was the oldest youngster?
Last I'd seen him was in our kitchen, our dining area.
So what time do you, by your recollection, do you think you walked into that room to lay down to sleep?
I would say somewhere between 12:30 and 1.
What were you wearing?
I believe I had on just a pair of shorts, possibly a shirt, but I'm not sure.
And how do you sleep? In what location? What blankets, pillows do you use?
At the time, because we had separated rooms, we didn't have an extra blanket that was big enough for myself. So I was using my 7-year-old's. He has a little throw blanket. I had that wrapped around my legs, and then I had another blanket, another throw blanket to cover my head.
And it's what you mean by cover your head.
I usually sleep with a blanket tucked over my head. That way, like when I'm rolling or if I toss and turn and stuff, that way light doesn't come in when I'm sleeping.
And you heard some testimony from your wife. What is the visibility, the darkness in that room?
Hey, Nan, you say you're confused about sleeping time. So he works the night shift at this place. So he works the night shift and she works the day shift. So I think if I got it best, what was going on, he worked until 6 o'clock in the morning. So about 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, he would leave the kids in the car, and she would get the car, and there was a bunch of issues there. But anyways, he would go home, play video games until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then go to bed. And the judge will talk about it at the end. But when all this happened, it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and all the kids were asleep. And so it was odd timing for it. In the end, they're just a messed up American family and having a messed up world. And so, I think the goal of this is to be an assault trial, and it ends up becoming a divorce interrogation. And so, but anyways, yeah, everybody was asleep at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think they had Linus's schedule. All right, let's jump back.
You can see. I mean, it's not it's not like this room right now, but it is darker, but it's not pitch black.
An example, I guess we've used for years, if you had a newspaper in front of you, could you have read it?
Mm-hmm.
There were blackout curtains?
Yes, but they didn't totally black it out because it doesn't completely cover up the window. There's still light that'll come out, through the sides.
And did you ultimately fall asleep?
Huh?
Did you ultimately fall asleep?
Yes.
After you fell asleep, what do you remember happening next?
I was woken up to an argument.
Describe that for the judge.
So from what I can recollect, I was sleeping. I had the blanket over my head. When she walked into the room, she ripped the blanket off of me and then proceeded to get an argument over my friend Brittany at the time.
Well, let's be open. Were you seeing Brittany?
No, we're even right now, we're still friends. She thinks that there's something there, but there's not.
Well, it was an acquaintance of yours.
Yes.
So there was argument over Brittany. What happened next?
When she woke me up, and then started questioning me about Brittany, I just started screaming at her to get away from me, leave me alone, trying to sleep.
Where was the blanket that you had over your head?
When she ripped it off, I want to say it was still in my vicinity. I think like down by my legs. I was still able to reach it.
And could you see her face?
Yeah.
Enough daylight?
Mhm.
What happened next?
We argued back and forth because she was trying to accuse me of leaving our kids, which I did not.
And we've heard some testimony about it, so why don't you tell us what was going on, or how were the children left or not left in the parking lot?
Okay, so as she indicated, when she comes in at 6 and then I leave at 6, our kids are left alone in the car unattended. You know, we do have our 7-year-old is with the kids. But it's usually about 10 minutes between her coming in and me being able to leave. Okay, so our kids are left alone. So on that day, she wasn't feeling good. So I had went to the Shell gas station, which is right by our work, to get her orange juice.
Who is she?
Leslie, sorry. I left work with the kids to go get orange juice for her because she didn't have time.
Go ahead.
So when I came back, I had to yet again leave the kids in the car, walk into the building to give it to her. On the way back out to meet kids, I see my friend Brittany. Okay. At our work, we have gates that go around, like a chain link fence that goes around the building. I was parked directly in front of the chain link fence. She was parked right behind me. All I did was go over, talk to her for about 5 or 10 minutes. I could see the kids, the lights were on. Our son has a phone. He knows how to call us, this and that. I could see him the whole time. That's what the whole argument started.
So, just a minute, how did she know about that?
That I actually don't know. I know, I do know she, pretty much, I know we work at a big place, but everybody knows everybody. And I think maybe somebody had mentioned that I was on the parking lot or something, I'm not sure exactly. Or I think she,
Judge, I'm gonna just subject to speculation. If he doesn't know, he doesn't know.
Fair enough, all right.
well, can't remember that for a fact, I mean. I-
All right. That's best answer, and we'll take it as it was given.
So what physical position are you in at this point?
I am laying down.
On your
the bed
back, your
when we're
side, or
arguing.
your stomach?
When we were arguing. Okay, so when she came in with the blanket off my head, I was laying on my side facing the wall. She ripped the blanket off my head, I sat up and we were arguing.
Are your feet on the floor?
No, my feet are still, I had a blanket wrapped around my feet.
So what happens next?
Fighting, arguing, so she finally, I guess, had enough to argue, whatever. She goes to walk out of the room, and when you walk out of our room, the front door is immediately right there. So she was getting ready to walk out as we're still arguing, and then she stopped from going outside. She started, and then she turned around to come back into the bedroom. I assumed she was going to want to keep arguing. So when I seen her coming back into the room, I immediately put the blanket back over my head, tucked it back, around my head, whatever, and was laying there expecting her to just want to continue arguing.
Were words going back and forth between the two of you?
Yes. I'm not sure exactly what she was saying. All I know is I was just screaming at her to leave me alone and get away from me.
These were hostile words.
Oh yes, I was screaming at her.
All right, I've got to jump in here. Right now he's describing how he was laying under the blanket that was just over his head, screaming at her and yelling at her, and she abused him. So whenever she was giving her testimony, it was, suspect, because her testimony was kind of crazy and it just didn't seem right. And then he comes up here and he's even worse. And so I kind of got the feeling these folks, they deserve each other. The judge should punish them if they got to stay married for the rest of their lives. Luckily enough, we don't do that. We don't do that in America, but that'd be a fitting punishment for these two.
So what happened then?
She didn't come back in to argue. She just started hitting with the blanket over my head.
And how do you know she was hitting you?
Because it's not the first time she's attacked me, and I've been hit before. Like I know what hitting feels like.
So what did you do?
Well, I had a blanket over my head, so I couldn't really see where the blows were coming from. All I know is I tried putting my hands up, but my arms were underneath the blankets as well, like I was wrapped up. In the process of me trying to sit up and push her off me, that's when I heard her, I want to say like scream, but she was like, ugh, just made a sound. And then it stopped. Like she made the sound and like we stopped tussling.
Well, and she obviously, during this process, received a blow to her face. Do you know what part of you may have struck her?
I do not. I don't know in the process of me trying to stop her from hitting me, if I pushed her arms, her arm back into her arms. I don't know if from me trying to sit up, if my head hit her. I do know that I was on the bottom bunk, and there's a top bunk above her. So I'm not sure exactly what happened. All I know is that when I sat up, I seen her bleeding. And that's when I went and got her a towel.
So whose idea was it to get the towel?
She wasn't saying anything. I believe I just went and got it for her.
What happened after you got the towel?
She still wasn't saying anything. I think at that point I was trying to, I'm not sure exactly between once I got the towel and what happened there, but I do know that at some point when I had my back turned, she got up and went to the bathroom.
So were the kids away?
Yes.
And at some point, did you turn the light on in the room?
I think when I was getting dressed to leave, yes.
Reflecting back to what went on in the room, did you ever swing at her with a fist?
No,
Did you ever headbutt?
not deliberately, no.
Did you ever kick her?
No.
But you acknowledge that she was bleeding.
Yes.
Did you apologize to her?
I did not apologize to her. Because to me, like when I seen the incident and stuff, when she was bleeding, she wasn't even trying to cover herself up. Even after I gave her the towel, she didn't try to cover herself up. To me, just from past experiences with her, it just felt like she was. To me, it felt like she was setting
Objection,
up.
Your Honor. Again, this is speculation as to what he thinks she was trying to do or thinking at the time.
Sustained.
You can testify to what you saw and observed. So you can testify to what she did or didn't do.
Okay, she just let it bleed all over the floor on the white carpet to make it look worse than what it was.
She testified about a chipped tooth. And did that strike you as odd?
Yeah, it does.
Tell the court why you don't believe that.
Because she has always had that imperfection in her tooth.
Did you leave the house after this?
Yes, it did.
So when you physically left, where was she?
She locked herself in the bathroom.
And where were the youngsters?
The two younger ones are still in their cribs, I believe, and then our 7-year-old was in the kitchen or dining room area.
Was there a lot of turmoil with the 7-year-old at this point?
No. I mean, he was worried, but he wasn't overly upset, I don't think.
And why did you leave?
As she indicated, every time, past incidences, anything happens, I always end up leaving because things get worse. And then when I mean worse, like more violent.
Where did you go?
I walked to Kalamazoo.
And what was your destination in Kalamazoo?
My grandma's.
And there was some testimony about taking some family money. What do you remember about that?
That was not family money. That was money that I had set aside. That particular money was, I do car stereo stuff, so that was a return on some of the stuff I had returned.
Why didn't you just take your car?
As in paid for, usually I always leave. She tends to follow me. And I didn't want to make things worse, so the only place I had to go was my grandma's in Kalamazoo. And I didn't think with me walking that she would expect me to go there to find me.
How long did it take you to walk to Kalamazoo?
10+ hours.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. May I, Your Honor?
Yes. Same thing for you, Mr. Schoolcraft. You're still under oath.
Use the exhibit, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Schoolcraft, you were able to see your carpet after the incident, is that correct?
Yes.
And exhibit 1 shows blood on the floor. Does it actually depict blood from her?
Yes.
And that's where the blood stains were located?
Yes.
If we are trying to set the scene, this black frame, do you agree that's where the bed is you were sleeping in?
Yes.
All right, and your daughter would be in this crib tent type
Yes.
thing that's there? All right. So in order for you to have any discussion, it would be between the black frame and the pink bed.
Correct.
There's no doubt in your mind that you did something to cause her to bleed?
Yes. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, just get aware. Yeah.
I mean, are you saying that she spontaneously started to bleed during the discussion?
No, I'm saying that in the wake of everything of me trying to get her off of me, yes, she was bleeding.
Right. But your testimony was you did nothing other than push her.
Or block or try to block her, yes.
All right. So in your, there was nothing that you did that would smash her face enough to cause bleeding and knock her on the floor?
I mean, like I said, we were on a bunk bed, so I had a blanket over my head, okay, mind you, and it's dark. So I'm not sure when I was trying to sit up with the blanket still over my head, or me trying to grab her arms, because I couldn't see where her arms were coming from at the incident happened.
All right. And it's your testimony that you got a towel, which is depicted in exhibit 2, is that correct?
I do not recall getting that towel. The other picture is still the towel that was sitting, it's just outside the frame. I do have another picture that is bigger, but right here is a dark brown towel. That's the original towel I got her.
All right.
I believe the other towel is one that she might have gotten from the bathroom when she went to the bathroom. But I may have also given her multiple towels, I'm not sure.
All right, so she was bleeding enough where multiple towels were used to stop the bleeding.
Well, I got a couple towels to help her stop the bleeding, and then she tried to clean the floor.
All right. And when you left her, she was in the bathroom, is that correct?
Yes.
She was upset, I assume?
I believe so.
And your son was kind of worried and upset also?
Yes.
But that's when you decided it was time to walk to Kalamazoo, is that correct?
Yep, because my concerns were is that when she came out of that bathroom, that it was only gonna get worse from there.
Right. The money you agree you took,
Yep, that was
All right.
my money.
and it's your testimony that you walked to Kalamazoo rather than drive because you felt she couldn't follow you if you were walking?
Or no, yes.
How would she follow you if you left in the car and were gone out of sight?
Well, she did have somebody follow me and was taking pictures of me.
That day?
that day.
Yeah.
And I have proof of that.
So you were concerned somebody was going to follow you to your grandmother's house?
Per somebody, yes.
But as far as the initial or the important incident, you two were in the bedroom alone as adults, correct?
Yes.
You're not alleging that any of your kids hit her or assaulted her in any manner, are you? You're not alleging she tripped and fell and hit her face against the wall or anything like that?
Not to my recollection, no.
So something between you and her, the physical interaction, her injuries were a result of the physical interaction between you and her.
Yes.
All right. And since that day, you no longer live in that residence, is that correct?
I'm not allowed there, no.
All right. Now, the divorce proceeding that occurred the day before where you discussed custody, was she a little bit upset that she was given full custody?
No, the reason why I had agreed to that is, the day prior, or maybe the week leading up to that, she was telling me that she would, if she didn't get the kids, that she would kill herself.
So you don't believe she wants you to be involved in the children's life?
I do not.
And it's your testimony that, oh, strike that. Did you see her on the ground at all that morning or that afternoon after the incident?
She was on her knees, I believe, or maybe I think she had like 1 foot down and was like kneeling.
So that was after whatever struck her.
Yes.
So it was enough force to knock her to her at least one knee.
Well, again, she was on top of me, so she would, okay, so we were both facing, in the picture, we were facing the opposite way of the doorway. After the altercation and I was sitting up, she, it spun or whatever, and then was facing back towards the door. But never did she was unconscious or anything.
How do you know that? She said it was seconds.
Because she was kneeling.
Could have been when she was getting up from being stunned by the punch, couldn't it?
No, because again, I was sitting up, she was kneeling. Like there's no way that she would have been laying down her back or on her face or something.
But you did see her on at least one knee.
Yes.
Or on her knees trying to get up.
She wasn't trying to get up. She was just she wasn't even stopping the bleeding. She was just letting it go.
She was just bleeding all over the carpet.
Yep, never once did she try to stop herself from bleeding.
How would before you got the towels?
As soon as I sat up, I seen what was going on. Even when I came back.
As soon as you got up, you saw her on her knees
Just a minute,
bleeding.
you can't both talk at once.
That's correct. I'm sorry, Your Honor, my fault. As soon as you sat up, she was on her knees bleeding.
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Bush, anything further?
No reduction.
Let's talk about the alcohol. This picture shows a Mike's Harder lemonade. So that's got a little more alcohol than the regular Mike's Hard lemonade.
Yes.
She also mentioned, I think, another can of Mike's, and she got her brands mixed up, Truly or White Claws. So she describes 4 cans. Had anyone else been there and drank the seltzers?
No, I don't know why she said White Claws. I do not drink White Claws at all.
How about Truly's?
I don't drink those either. The only thing I drink is the Mike's.
So there were 3 other cans there, but you don't know where those came from?
No,
Had Brittany been there that morning?
no. I had actually, right before I was getting ready to lay down, I had texted her and told her that I would see her tonight because we worked together. That was about, like I said, 12:30, I think.
Okay.
And just to add though, to that can, I only drank half that can.
All right, that's what you had said, but, all right. All right, so you may step down. Anything further, Mr. Bush?
That's frustrating.
Mr. Macville?
Your Honor, may I have just
Yeah, let's
about a
take
minute to
a,
talk to my client? If they're talking
let's take about a 10-minute recess. You can talk to your client, see if we have any rebuttal, or go directly into closing argument.
to- Thank you, Your Honor.
So, everyone, if you had to guess, which way do you think it's going? Who do you think's going to win this one? He's the one on trial, but do you think Judge believed him, or do you think the judge believed her? Well, I think once I got to this point, I was pretty much set on which one it was, and I think I won it, but my attention span doesn't last, so probably by the time I remembered it, it was over. So, all right, we'll put in the comments which one you think it is, and don't do what Lethal Friction says. Only wrong answers only. So, we'll see.
All right, let's go back on the record. Return to the matter of People versus Brandon Bartell Schoolcraft. File number is 24649 SM. The people rested, then the defense rested. We took a recess. Mr. McWhale, do you wish to call any rebuttal witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we're simply ready for closing argument.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's, as Judge Noacker used to say, the prosecution will now favor us with their argument.
Actually, I remember that. Thank you, Your Honor. On March 26, 2024, in this very small bedroom that had 2 bunk beds, some other cribs, an incident occurred that caused Leslie Ann to basically bleed all over the carpet, need to seek medical attention and have her tooth ground, received a bloody lip, the bruised in lip, interior of the lip, a little bit of bruising on the outside, and obviously bled profusely, as the court can tell from the exhibits. Now, there's only a few ways that could happen. One is spontaneous bleeding and spontaneous tooth chipping. Don't think that happened here. Another would be is if somebody other than the defendant struck the complainant, and doesn't appear that that's possible, since the only people there were 3 small children, the oldest being 7 years old and not even in the room at the time. So the question becomes, did the description of the defendant by saying he was merely trying to stay covered and hold his hands up cause this type of injury, or was she struck in some way? Now, if the defendant had said to the court, well, I know I hit her, but it was an accident, or I know I bumped her hard with my head, but that was an accident because we were struggling, then maybe the court would have some other issue to decide. But he basically says nothing really happened, other than the fact that he was holding his arms up and trying to push her, and none of that would cause the injuries that the court sees in the exhibit. The placement of where the blood stain is, I think, is very consistent with the plaintiff's testimony, that she was struck, fell on the ground, was unconscious for a short period of time, and woke up and was bleeding. If you look at the blood stains, it appears to be very near in between the beds, where the complainant said she was basically standing next to the defendant, bending down with her hands on her knees to talk to him. And at that position would be consistent with her getting struck and falling back and having these issues. But we're not hearing, or at least from the physical evidence, anything consistent with the defendant's statement that she was on top of him in his bunk beds, and that's when something occurred. We've heard no testimony there was blood on any of the blankets, no blood on the bed or near the bed. So whatever happened away from the bed, and had to happen in a way where the complaining witness was struck in between the two beds and fell, not on the bed itself, because there's no evidence that that is consistent with the physical evidence of the blood and her injuries. So I think the court does have an issue of credibility. I mean, you have to believe one or the other statements, and there's really no reason why the complainant's witness or statement doesn't make total sense and isn't totally believable. One, the parties are going through a divorce, so there is some emotion there, but it sounds like they were in court the day before this incident and decided on custody, and that issue looked like it was put to bed. So there's no hostility there, apparently. The complaining witness was leaving the house and was merely telling the defendant, since he was there alone with the kids, that she was going and he needed to have their responsibility. But for some reason, the defendant then started to talk about this friend that he allegedly wanted her to meet, and that there became a conversation about leaving kids in the car at work, which upset her, obviously. But when she heard that, that's the last thing she heard before getting struck by some blunt object, either a fist or some other object that the defendant hit her with. And the court had a very good question for this. Well, how would the plaintiff know, or the complainant know, about these allegations of the kids being left in the car? And how would that be something new unless that information came from the defendant? I mean, it makes totally sense that he brought up the thing, he told her that, and that caused her to react the way she did in talking to him. And then I think basically caused him to smack her in the face and knock her on the ground. Now, we know that the prosecutor bears the burden beyond a reasonable doubt, but as the court knows, this is not beyond all doubt. I think the court has to look at what testimony there is and what physical evidence there is and try to match the two together. There is no way, in my opinion, that you could argue that she received the injuries she did just by being pushed or being struggling while the defendant was sleeping and she was standing over him on the bed. Also, I think if the court can take, I guess, judicial notice of the world, bunk beds, especially kids' bunk beds, as they were described by the complaining witness, do not have a lot of area between the bed and the bed below and the bed above. So there's not a lot of room to struggle in there. And I'm not sure an adult man could even sit up, as the defendant described, without being crowded by that top bed. So I think his version just doesn't match the physical scene and doesn't match the injuries. There doesn't seem to be any dispute that something hit the complaining witness, causing her to have these issues. And the only logical conclusion from that, since the defendant isn't alleging he struck her by accident, he's saying he didn't hit her at all. So,
hey everybody, I just caught on to it. Watch while the prosecutor's talking, the defendant's playing on his phone. I didn't catch that before, but you can just watch him sitting there playing on his phone while the prosecutor's going at it. I wonder what was so important that he had to be on his phone.
The only conclusion there could be is that the defendant struck her, caused the injury, committed the assault. Now, the statute requires that the complaining witness have a serious or aggravated injury. In this case, we have a chipped tooth, which on its face may not be much, but think about the requirements of having to go to the dentist, having had those teeth ground. I think certainly that qualifies as a serious injury. In addition, the complaining witness testified that now, even today, since this incident, she suffers from headaches. And those headaches started right after she was hit in the face and caused the injuries to her lips, her teeth, and her upper lips. I think, Your Honor, the continuance of having problems from the assault is another indication that this was an aggravated injury or serious injury. And if the court doesn't find serious injury, certainly I think the court has to find that the defendant committed a domestic assault on this person. There was kind of an interesting description that the defendant had, that he saw the complainant kind of on her knees, which is somewhat close to what the complaining witness said, that she was bent over and had her hands on her knees trying to talk to him. But if the defendant's version is correct, something had to force her to her knees and cause her to bleed. And other than a physical contact or physical assault, I don't know what other explanation there would be for that. Now, we're talking about an incident that occurred in the afternoon, but practically this is kind of an incident that occurred after the defendant got off of work. There is a mysterious, not only do we have a mysterious person that assaulted, I guess, the complaining witness, but we have a mysterious person that drank some Trulies or White Claws and a couple Mike's Extra Hard or Mike's Harder lemonade. The complaining witness testified that she left for work and they weren't there and came home from work and suddenly those cans were there. The defendant admits drinking half of one. I don't know who or why the other ones came up empty, but certainly if alcohol was involved, I think that certainly affects people's judgment and may affect people's reaction to some sort of an emotional discussion. You know, given all the testimony, Your Honor, it's a complicated marriage relationship, obviously. There is another woman involved, be it a friend or be it someone that the defendant wanted to have the complaining witness engage with also. But for whatever reason, there is no doubt and no dispute that the plaintiff and the complaining witness had something strike her in the face, which caused a serious injury. If that's true, then the only thing the court has to decide, was it the defendant that struck her? And is there any excuse or mitigation as to why that assault occurred? And I'm not seeing anything in the evidence that shows that. Defendant says nothing happened, but something certainly happened to cause all that damage to the complaining witness. So I think, Your Honor, we met our burden in this case. We ask the court return to the verdict of guilty as charged. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Bush.
Brandon is charging that he did assault Leslie Schoolcraft, an individual with whom he had a child in common without a weapon, and did inflict serious or aggravated injury upon her without intending to commit murder or inflict great bodily harm less than murder. That's the charge today. I guess I asked the court to take a close look at the testimony. It's certainly clear that you don't accidentally commit a domestic violence. You intentionally do something that causes that injury. We have the testimony of Brandon, the defendant in this case, that he was sleeping with the children. He's a third shift worker. This was his standard place. He was in a darkened room, although not totally dark. And the next thing he knows, while he's sleeping with blankets covered his head, that he has his wife confronting him on top of her or near him, and things got out of control after that. He took the same oath that victim did in this case and said he never swung at her, kicked her, or headbutted her. Can't make a legitimate argument to the court that she didn't get injured. She did. There's no question about that. How did she get injured? It was through some contact with Brandon. You cannot dispute that in the least bit. But it can't be an accidental or inadvertent touching. I submit that she escalated the situation, came in there, and there was a confrontation. He reacted, and we now know what happened. From what we can tell, he was appropriate afterwards. He helped with the towel. I think perhaps he learned before that he didn't want to de-escalate the situation. He left, got away, so there wasn't going to be a round two or any further injury to either party. It was awkward. Obviously, there were minor children involved. They were going through a pretty non-traditional situation in a divorce. He may have consumed alcohol. He admitted that he drank a half of a can. We don't know when that could have been. This was later in the day. She didn't recognize the smell of alcohol or anything that made him intoxicated. I suggest to the court that this was a tragic accident, not an assault, and he should be found not guilty.
Mr. Mackrell?
Thank you, Judge. An accident, that's very interesting, because I think when an accident occurs between two people who are living together and have three disabled children together, and if the defendant's version was correct, I think the case would have been something like there was an argument, he accidentally struck her in some manner because he was trying to either sit up or get the blankets away from her, and she had an injury. And what normally would happen in a position, yes, an accused would help, would probably apologize, and may stick around and make sure she's okay and the kids are okay, because we have a bleeding mother and we have three disabled children who would be left with this mother who was injured either by accident or intentionally. And rather than sit there and help the family and make sure his wife is okay and make sure that nothing more serious happened, he decides the best course of action is to take $700 in cash and leave and walk. Now, the court had some interesting questions also about why not take a car, and I don't think defendant's answers really made any sense to me, but I think it's obvious that the defendant was taking money and he was getting away, and I think one can certainly infer he was getting away because he had some concerns he was going to be in trouble. That doesn't happen when you just have an accidental contact of some sort that causes a minor injury or bleeding. This happens when you have a man or a defendant who is upset, or maybe doesn't even like being woken up. He's worried, concerned about that, or certainly maybe not want to be spoke to, or may not be getting the answers he wants regarding his quote unquote friend, and punches, takes a strike, and reaches out and lashes out at the person who is causing him irritation, and then runs, leaves the scene. And I think the court could take that into account as to one of the indications of a guilty conscience in this case. I'm going to walk to Kalamazoo after this accident because, oh, well, that's how things go in my house. I think the injuries, as the defendant described, I guess I didn't know that until I heard the defendant's testimony, that towel that's in the exhibit is not the only towel that was used to help stop bleeding. So, I mean, there's obvious there was much more blood involved, and makes this injury even more concerning. So I think, Your Honor, there is no evidence that an accidental contact occurred which caused these injuries. There's just insufficient evidence to show that type of force could happen as the defendant described in an accidental touching. As a result, the court is left with, I think, the only conclusion is that this defendant struck, assaulted, beat, or hit the complaining witness sufficient force to cause bleeding, which required a number of towels to help stop the bleeding, sufficient enough to cause blood stains on the carpet, sufficient enough to cause her to have to go to the dentist to fix a tooth that was damaged, sufficient enough to cause her to have a bloody upper lip and a bruised upper lip, and sufficient enough now to keep causing her to have continuing headaches from this incident. I think the court is left with no alternative in this case but to find the defendant guilty.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schoolcraft and Miss Ann, the way this works, the prosecutor has the burden of proof, so they get the last word. So the testimony and the arguments are over. The people that are watching have had an opportunity to see two very experienced attorneys, probably almost 50 years combined, almost 100 years of
50 years myself.
50 years each, about 100 years of combined practice, who really just focused on the relevant evidence in the matter. This is tried as a bench trial, so the judge has the burden of making the decision. And ultimately, several times a year, there's a case like this where we actually earn our money, because this is an issue that somebody has to decide, and in this case, somebody is me. As the parties pointed out, Mr. Bush recapped the actual statute, and the complaint did assault Leslie Schoolcraft, now Ann, and they were living together. They were in fact married, which is one of the elements of domestic violence. And it happened in the city of Three Rivers in St. Joseph County. Mr. Macrio contends this was an intentional act that resulted in an aggravated injury. Mr. Bush contends it was not intentional. It concedes there was an injury, but says, A, it's not aggravated, and B, we didn't do it on purpose. And as he stated, there's no such thing as an accidental domestic assault. The judge has the burden of deciding the case to the standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. As Mr. Macrio said, that's not beyond all doubt. It's beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a doubt based on reason and common sense. In a civil case, you only have to win just barely more than the other side beyond a preponderance of evidence. In a criminal case, the burden is much higher. So there are some weird peculiarities in this case, which don't go to the ultimate question of whether there was an assault, or like little side stories in a Coen Brothers movie. They're in this blacked out room in the middle of the day. The kids are all sleeping at 3 o'clock or in the afternoon. The 7-year-old isn't at school. He's there. We have this friend who the defendant says is all it is. I frankly don't believe that, which goes to some of his credibility. We've got this weird thing where he left the scene and contends that he walked for 10 hours to Kalamazoo in March in what would have been a lot of darkness. Left his phone and 2 nice cars, an Escalade and a Yukon, to walk 10 hours in the cold. This parking lot exchange stuff. I've said half in jest, maybe partially serious, that I may have on my tombstone, the truth is somewhere in the middle. There's a Latin translation of that. And the jury instruction says you can believe all, none, or a part of any witness's testimony. According to the complainant, she went in to have a just calm conversation, and in the middle of that, the defendant punched her in the face. I think the conversation got more heated. According to her, he said, I left the kids in the car in the parking lot at work. And that's the first she knew of it. And then he hit her. It sounds like this wasn't uncommon. She has to be in the plant at 6. He doesn't get out of the plant until 6. So rather than leave the kids at home, he would get the kids, get them up, put them in the car, drive them to the plant. Then apparently they would trade cars and she'd drive the other car home. But something was discussed regarding the kids being left in the car in the parking lot, which isn't a good plan under any scheme of things. 7-year-old in a car running, I assume, in early morning cold of March. There's video cameras all in the house, which is another Cohen brother weird aspect to this. We don't have any video of this incident. Apparently it was in a dark room. I don't know who drank the White Claws or the Trulies or the other Mike's harder lemonade. But somebody had been in there drinking, and there was apparently also some discord that this other woman had been in the house, and they would turn the cameras off because he didn't want them to know what was going on. So I'm not even sure what to make of all that, but it doesn't go to the ultimate question. So let's talk about the actual elements of the offense. Question. First, that the defendant assaulted Leslie Ann, or was a battery. An assault is swinging at somebody and causing a fear of an immediate battery. This isn't an assault, it's a battery. A battery is the forceful, violent, or offensive touching of a person. She got punched in the face, arguably. The touching, as this is what Mr. Bush spoke to, the touching must have been intended by the defendant. That is not accidental. And it must have been against Leslie's will. Second, at the time of the offense, the complainant was the defendant's spouse. Third, in this case, that the assault carried a serious or aggravated injury. And this jury instruction defines that as a serious or aggravated injury is a physical injury that requires immediate medical treatment or causes disfigurement, impairment of health, or impairment of a part of the body. There are two components to that. One is the chipped tooth. So arguably, the chipped tooth and cracked tooth would be an aggravated injury, and that within a day or a couple of days, she had a dental appointment to repair or remediate that broken tooth. Secondly, she contends that she continues to have headaches now, even months after the fact. I don't believe she got struck in the forehead. She got struck in the mouth. But as a result of being struck in the mouth, she contends that she still has a disfigurement, impairment of health, or impairment of a part of the body. And I would argue that a continuing headache is an impairment of health. So I do find that this is an aggravated injury. The question is there proof beyond a reasonable doubt that this was not an accident, but an intentional act?
Yeah, his pauses get me. His pauses are
Mr.
quiet.
Mequio argued this, that his story doesn't make sense. He says that he got her a towel. He didn't say, "I'm sorry," or apologize. She said he did say, "I'm sorry," which indicates that he acknowledged that he did something wrong. And then he left. There is a jury instruction regarding that. There has been some evidence that the defendant tried to run away or did run away after he was accused of a crime. The evidence does not prove guilt a person may run or hide for innocent reasons such as panic, mistake, or fear. However, a person may also run or hide because of consciousness of guilt. You must decide whether the evidence is true and whether it shows the defendant has a guilty state of mind. She said that she was unconscious for a short period of time. He said that he said something, she didn't respond. He said something, she didn't respond, which would be consistent with her being either stunned or briefly unconscious. But so she's stunned, she's bleeding. He contends she's just bleeding all over for dramatic effect. But nonetheless, he runs away. Doesn't stay and make sure that the kids aren't upset. He, according to him, they're yelling and screaming in this dark bedroom where two small children are asleep. 7-year-old is watching this. He said, he was worried, but he was okay. He then splits, doesn't take his phone so no one can find him, doesn't take a car that they could track or carry a phone number on. He leaves in a manner that he can't be found, meaning he's running to avoid being arrested. Whether he actually walked to Kalamazoo or not, I don't know. But a person may also run or hide because of a consciousness of guilt. So this is a classic case of he said, she said. There were some inconsistencies in her testimony. There were more inconsistencies in his testimony. The benefit of having a live trial is you can sit here and see the people from arm's length rather than watching them on video. You can hear them, you can see their demeanor, you can listen to the tenor of their voice. And that's why we make the big bucks. As judges, we're supposed to be able to decide these questions. In a jury case, I would simply sit back and listen and let the jurors decide. I probably wouldn't have even asked any questions. But in a bench trial, I have to make the decision myself. So I do find there was a serious or aggravated injury. And I do find it was not accidental. I believe it was an intentional act by Brandon Schoolcraft where he punched her in the face. I find that beyond a reasonable doubt. So I find that Mr. Schoolcraft is guilty of the charged offense of aggravated domestic assault. Even though Miss Schoolcraft, now Ann, is here, I'm not prepared to do the sentence today. I'd like to get a pre-sentence investigation. The defendant has quite a lot of baggage on his criminal record, including a previous domestic assault some years ago. So he's not eligible for a deferral. And I could only do the deferral if the prosecutor agrees. This divorce is in the offing, and Ms. Schoolcraft has the possession and custody of 3 small children who all suffer from autism. Her life must just be one constant blur of fatigue. Anyway, the parties had indicated they were relatively cordial until this incident happened. There's been a no contact provision in effect, and the defendant is no longer residing in the home. So I'm going to set this for sentence and actually get a pre-sentence investigation report. It may take a little while. Mr. Bush and Mr. Mequio, are you available on Monday, September 16th? That's Fair Week.
Just give me a moment, Your Honor.
I would say Monday.
Hey, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it loose there. So he got found guilty, but the judge did something smart. Instead of sentencing him there, he wants a pre-trial investigation. That to me is a good way of the judge saying both sides have trouble, and he needs to get some information to figure out what's going to happen with it. Hopefully, they can get the divorce settled, and they can figure it out. I have zero tolerance for guys that want to hit a woman. Luckily enough, I've never been in a situation, but I have no tolerance for it. Me and Tokyo was actually talking this morning, and he explained to me that innocent until proven guilty, and I explained to him that that's the judge's role, is innocent until proven guilty. To me, if it's an abusive thing, I go ahead and side. I normally start off siding with the woman in it and let the guy prove it. I know sometimes stories are made up, and I think this one here, I think there's a little bit made up on both sides. I think in the end, I think they deserve each other. I think they belong together. But the judge can't sentence them to life together. So Kay comes in and starts talking about ice cream, and now she's got my wife wanting ice cream, and that's not fair. Lethal telling me to go get St. Emily some ice cream. No, it is 10 o'clock here. I am way too old, and it's way too time to go to bed for all that. Gotta love court in a place where sentencing can be delayed because of Fair Week. Absolutely. Now, I grew up in a small town. We had, I think it's about 30 to 40 miles for the closest Walmart. And so when someone would commit a crime or something like that, that 13, 14-mile walk wasn't too unusual. So hearing about him taking off walking, that's a good way of blowing off the steam. And so, yeah, Nan, I'm gonna do everything I can to pay attention to this one. I'm horrible at follow-ups. I'm horrible at paying attention to them. My attention span is so bad. I can see the same person in Judge Fleischer's court, one or 2 days later, and I can't remember anything. Julie, I don't know if the town that I live in even has DoorDash. I know we've never used it here. There may be Uber Eats, but I don't think we have DoorDash. I live in a really small town in Florida, and so I'm not sure if they have that. I'm sure my wife would let me know, though. She'll let me know real quick. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm going to throw on a Judge Perkins. It's only, I think, 4 minutes, but it'll finish this up and get us out of here. Jay actually sent this one to me, so thank you, Jay, for sending me that video. I really appreciate you guys. So here I'm going to throw in the Judge Perkins.
Deborah O'Neill never showed back up. Jalen O'Neill, where's Jalen O'Neill? We got a whole family of O'Neills in here. Everybody got tickets. Oh, let's get Ledbetter. Ledbetter, are you there?
Yes, Your Honor.
City of, this is, did you get into a payment plan?
Actually, that's why I wanted to talk to you about this court, that I was gonna try to get into one. I can pay it and everything. It's just I had a couple hardships that went on in the previous month, so I had to pay for a funeral and everything. But I'm still working and everything, so it's not no issue with me getting into a payment plan and everything. And then they said I had 2 court dates with you today, like both cases, I guess. And that's what I was told from the clerks. She gave me this Zoom and said I had both of my cases with you.
Yeah, both of them that you didn't pay.
Yeah, I am. Well, I was kind of confused then because I didn't know nothing about the destruction. I thought I had a destruction of property or something like that. I didn't know that's all I had to do was pay.
You have that. That's not with me though.
Right, that's what I said. I was getting that taken care of with you today. That's what I was told. So I've been getting misled because I don't even know where that court date is today. Then they said that was supposed to be on Zoom. I don't want to be in trouble for not showing up to that one. They told me that you were taking care of both of the matters.
I can tell you, I'm not going to take care of both of the matters. You have a court date with Judge Bryant on next week on the 27th, next week and a half on the 27th of, at 8:30, so you better write that down. It's
Okay,
on you.
that is wrong.
It's on you to keep your stuff together, Mr. Ledbetter.
I mean,
All
is
right.
it a Zoom? Yeah, I heard you. Is it Zoom?
I don't know how it is over there. I didn't go to court with you. You went to court the last time.
Yeah, they just told me that you was taking care of both of them, man. That's something that y'all down, your clerks and secretaries down there misleading people. That's all. They for sure told me that you was taking care of both.
My clerk is sitting right next to me, and she's not misleading you. I don't know what you
heard. You know what I'm talking about.
Wait a minute. I don't know what you heard downstairs, but I'm telling you what it is now, and you need to do a better job of keeping your stuff together.
All right, so can I get the information so I can put it in my phone again? Like
I gave it to you. I gave it
all
to
that
you.
other stuff, girl.
All that other what?
I was saying, like, I'm just trying to get the information. I got misled.
No, what did you say? All that other what?
I said all that other stuff.
And
I got misled.
Continue what your thought on that.
I'm telling you what I'm saying. I got misled. What you want me to, I'm telling you exactly what I said. I got misled. You want me to say something that I didn't say? Like, what you trying to get me to say, sir? I'm telling you, I got misled. I called the 3rd, 6th district yesterday, and they told me that they gave me this Zoom number, and they said you was taking care of both of the matters. That's all I said. I was on top of my court dates. I called. They told me you was dealing with both. I called. That's all I'm saying. I got misled. You said I didn't get misled. I'm letting you know I got misled. I called downstairs and they said you was taking care of both of the matters today. That's all, sir.
So I'm taking care of, you haven't been misled. I'm taking care of 2 of your matters today. 2 of your matters, both of your matters that are here today. You have a 3rd matter.
Yeah, they said you was doing the dirt. They said you was doing the ticket and the destruction of property. That's what I was told. That's what I'm saying, sir. That's what I was told from someone down. I don't know who I spoke to downstairs, but I'm not trying to have an argument match either. I was just letting you know what I was told. I didn't know that I was.
Hey, I thought I was done. I'm gonna jump in on these comments. The story with Judge King is horrible. Tokyo had put the link. I know he had put it in Kathy's Discord. I'll throw it in my Discord also. So some kids were doing a field trip in Detroit, going to the courtroom, and a girl fell asleep, and then she got an attitude with the judge, and I think he put her in, got her in handcuffs and got her in a jumpsuit, and just in the end giving her some tough love. And then the story became sad because the mom talked about how the little girl, how they were homeless and now they just found a home and she was probably falling asleep. But from what I understand, the sleeping wasn't the issue. The sleeping was the attitude. Whenever she got called out on it, she got an attitude with the judge. But in the end, stuff like that could change her life for the best. It could change her life for the best because, that judge could wake her up and, just really, really, really reach out to her and talk to her. In the end, whenever I was a kid, I wish a judge would have done that with me. I would have loved that. I wouldn't have loved it then, but 10 years was great. Yeah, Jay, I see that. Her attitude was terrible. Now, someone mentioned, was this wouldn't have been on YouTube, would it? I saw pictures of it, but I didn't know if it was on YouTube. Exactly, Julie. He tried tough love, and now the mom is being offensive. Well, she is. The news, the news loves a good story, but Jay he even offered to mentor her. See, that's an opportunity of a lifetime there. One of my best videos that I've got on YouTube and one of the best videos that I've got on TikTok is when Judge Fleischer talked to a young girl and told her she had spunk. That video blew up. That video's done great. And, that's what this is all about. Judges helping people, judges doing stuff like that. You simply can't win. You can't win with a bad attitude, and the judges are trying to tell them that because that's the only chance they have of surviving. But yeah, tell Judge King whenever he gets back if he wants to mentor me, I'm all for it. All right, I'm gonna throw it on. It's only got about 45 seconds left, and then you guys have a great night. I'm gonna run over to Discord. Me and Julie's got some chatting to do.
In trouble for telling you that I was misled by one of your persons that worked down there with you. That's all I'm
No,
saying.
they're
Your Honor.
they're not my person, sir.
Well, that's all I was saying, Your Honor. I'm not trying to go back and forth. I'm not trying to argue. I'm not trying to get in trouble for just letting you know that
So
I
why
got
don't you just end it? Be quiet.
Okay, come on.
I'm gonna
I
put him
gotta go
at
to
the
work in
end.
a couple hours.
I'm about to put you at the end. I don't like your attitude. All right. Who do we have next?
Mr. Gayton, Your Honor.
Let's go back on the record with Mr. Gayton.